Henia, lovely to see you again. We have a good mix of new and previous mentors. I mean, some of you might have mentored in other programs before, but specifically, nice to see our Pathway to Employment mentors back again. Brilliant. Okay, that might be all we're expecting today. Like I said, we've got a couple of people who will be watching the recording and will be joining us in the future and going on with the mentoring. Let me share my screen and get these slides up. Amazing. Okay. Welcome, everyone. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for expressing your interest in and joining the Pathway to Employment program. Looking forward to running through a little bit about what that actually looks like. You might have varying levels of understanding of what this program will look like and what's involved. For those who are returning, a lot of this content will be familiar, but there are some extra elements in this current cohort and what our students will be experiencing. And yeah, for those who are new, we're so glad to have you with us. I would love to start by acknowledging the lands that I'm joining from, some on Darug country, and the Aboriginal people of this land have had that connection with the land, sea and air long before I've been here and long before Pathway to Employment has been going. They've been working in the community in many ways that we can still learn from. So it's my pleasure to acknowledge the country that I'm joining on, and pay our respects to elders past, present, and any in attendance today. We'd love to extend that respect. I know we're joining from many different countries and places around Australia. So if you know what land you're on, feel free to pop it in the chat so we can get a picture of where we're tuning in from. But thank you so much for joining us for this mentor welcome workshop. Super quickly, feel free to use the chat to ask any questions. I realized I didn't change Melissa's name. I've obviously used these slides before. Melissa isn't with us today, but if you want to shoot a message, just pop it in the chat. Rebecca and I will be able to answer them throughout the session. Feel free to unmute and join in the conversation. There'll be a couple of interactive sessions. With group sizes like this, we like to keep it interactive and you can have a chance to speak up as well. But yeah, feel free to unmute, pop your hands up or anything like that throughout the session. I wanted to give a bit of a picture of who Community is and why we're running this program, because you might actually not be familiar with who we are. You might have reached out because you like the idea of mentoring, or you like the idea of the program and were interested in getting involved. So really what Community does at its core is connect not-for-profits with corporate resources. So particularly the people and the skills that these not-for-profits need to make a difference. That's our bread and butter. We have a volunteering platform. We connect people to not-for-profits in causes and areas that they're interested in. So we would love to see everyone volunteering in some way. Many of our organizations provide volunteering leave, and we want to help people access that in a way that's meaningful and impactful. That's what we do, and that's what we're really passionate about. But you might think that seems a little bit different to a mentoring program, but we saw that in our space of the way we engage, particularly corporate volunteers, we saw coming out of the COVID pandemic, we've been running this program for just over a year now. And I mean, a lot has changed in a year, but a year and a half ago, we saw this space where we could actually provide corporate mentors to university students. And there's not many programs like that out there. So we thought with our connections and the way that we work between these communities, we could really, and I'll go into the sustainable development goals, kind of these global goals for sustainability. But we saw that we could help late year university students get prepared for the workforce, and with the goal that they can then contribute back even quicker. I don't know if you remember your kind of first year of work or full-time work. It's a bit full on. You need all the support you can get, and the quicker you can get up to speed, we think that we can raise up the next generation of people who can give back as well. So that's who we are, and that's why we started this program, and we're really excited to have you involved today. And as I mentioned, we connect this program to the Sustainable Development Goals. These are run by the United Nations. And I wanted to include this because by taking part in this program, you will have a very profound impact on an individual's life. So by mentoring someone in their later years of university, you will have a profound impact on the way they enter their career or enter the workforce. And that's something that you'll notice, and we get feedback throughout the program from the students and try to pass it on where we can. We have a bit of a debrief and recognition event where you get to hear from the students themselves about what that impact was like. And we think that that's a really important part of mentoring. But not just will you have an individual impact, you'll be participating in this kind of global movement to sustainability. So particularly with these goals here, SDG 4 and 8, we're trying to improve the education and the decent work and economic growth, even in our society. And you can do that by participating in this program. So through mentoring, we're connecting you with students to equip them for the workplace. And like I said, we want to equip these students so that they can become social impact advocates themselves in their workplace. And this is where if you've participated in this program before, there's an extra element where all the students in this program, so they're all from Western Sydney University, and they're all participating in leadership programs within Western Sydney University. So they've chosen to take on these extracurricular activities so they can be recognized as participating in, it's either called the LEAD program or the Academy program. They might mention that as they talk to you. So they're in these leadership programs and they take on these extracurricular activities that allow them to say they've completed this program. And for this one, it's kind of a bit of give and take. So they're receiving a lot of support from yourself, being a mentor and providing some guidance, but they're also participating in some volunteering with local community organizations. So Western Sydney University has a central campus in Parramatta, and we've particularly connected these students with not-for-profits in the local government area around Parramatta. So they are committing to 10 weeks of volunteering and mentoring. So they'll be meeting up with you, and then also they've organized just this week who they're going to be volunteering with and what that'll look like. So we really see them getting some soft skills out of that. So kind of we know that even myself, I was doing retail work during uni, and that was work. I was in a team, but that did not give me the skills I needed for the workplace that I would be entering. So we wanted to see people get involved in a team, in completing projects or that kind of thing. So they're doing some volunteering to give back to the local community, but also to get some of those skills, maybe talk through with you what that experience was like or what they could learn and that kind of thing. So that's what this program looks like for the students. So we'll go through today what your involvement in that will be and how we hope to support you throughout this journey. So I've introduced community, and that's how we do it. You notice this program has been running for a year. So I'd say we've got this particular program quite smooth, and we're very proud of what we've put together. But we wouldn't have been able to do that without ABI, because we're not, like I said, we're in volunteering. We're not mentoring experts. So we work closely with ABI to actually pull this content together, and all the mentoring experience comes from them. And I'll let Alex introduce ABI.
Thanks a lot, Ruth, and good morning, everyone. So my name is Alex. I'm the student program manager at ABI. Really happy to welcome you to this new Pathway to Employment cohort. So a bit more about ABI. So we've been a leader in international volunteering for over 70 years now. ABI was credited for sending the first international volunteers in 1951. You might have heard about ABI as we are the lead delivery partner for the Australian Volunteers Program that we manage on behalf of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And the approach we take to volunteering is really to bring the right people together to share skills, knowledge, and experience. So really what you're going to do in mentoring these students. And really that leads to building and strengthening locally driven capacity. So that's all all of our programs are laid and the philosophy we have at AVI. We manage a number of programs, both internationally and domestically as well. And we work closely with a number of Australian universities in offering the pathway to employment programs alongside community, but also volunteering opportunities for students internationally. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about the story behind AVI and how our volunteering journey started. Maybe next slide, please. Thanks. So Herb Feith was the first Australian volunteers that, as I mentioned, was mobilized in 1951. He was a Melbourne Uni student, and he went to Indonesia and worked as a translator with the Ministry of Information. It was at a time when the Indonesian government was inviting technical experts to support the transition and help the newly independent government to build local capacities. So, but the approach that Herb took to his volunteering experience was that he didn't just go as an expert, but he really went with an open mind. So he didn't go there just to share his knowledge, but also to participate in the life of his new community. He was really keen to learn about the people he was working with and living with. And really, I think he knew what he knew, but he also knew that he had a lot to learn from this experience. And he really made the most of his time as an opportunity to discover himself, but also to learn new skills and new things. So the way he approached his volunteering experience was that he immersed himself in Indonesian culture. So unlike his expat peers who were eating at cafes, he was eating and living within his Indonesian community and family. He was eating his lunch out of a banana leaf like everyone else was doing. And he really sought to understand rather than being understood by the people he was working and living with. So how this story is relevant to your experience as a mentor and the journey you're about to embark on is really it's something we've learned from the previous cohorts. And we've noticed that successful mentor and mentees relationships were really two-way streets. So it's about shared respect, shared understanding, taking an interest in someone else's life and journey. And it's about really other people feeling heard, feeling valued. And I think as a mentor, you really have an important role in driving that relationship forward and building that, establishing that relation with your mentee. So let's deep dive a bit into the program itself and what you can expect from that journey. So today mark the start of what we call the engage phase, as you can see in the little diagram here. So we are really sharing high-level information about how the program is gonna be rolled out and what your role is gonna be. So to help you through that phase, we've developed some online learning that you're invited to complete on the community platform that we'll share more about in a minute. So it wouldn't take longer than 20 to 30 minutes to complete the e-learnings. They're not mandatory, but we strongly encourage you to go through the material and complete these little modules just to have some tips and tools about your role as a mentor and what you can expect. I think it's also just at this stage of the mentoring journey, it's really an opportunity for you to think about the experience. What are you going to bring to the table? What are you expecting to get out of it as well? And as mentioned, it's very much a two-way street where both mentors and mentees are gaining in that experience. And I think what you give is what you get. So we really want you to have a think a bit about what your expectations are and what your commitment will look like. So next slide, please. So next week, as we mentioned, you'll be paired with your mentee. Once you've been allocated a mentee, you'll start the 10 weeks support that we call the emerge phase. You'll hear from community, from Will more specifically, quite regularly. We'll be touching base with you and with the mentees as well, just to see if you have any questions, either technical with the platform or more around the program itself and your engagement with your mentee. We really welcome any feedback that you might have along the way. So please do share any comment, any suggestion that that you have for the program. We really value receiving mentors and mentees feedback on how things could be improved in the future. Next slide, please. So once you've been matched with your mentee, you'll receive an email from Will about some of the next steps. One part that is mandatory is for you to set up an agreement with your mentee. So it's really about setting expectations in terms of how your relationship is going to work. So you will be invited to think about how frequently you're going to meet with your mentee, with a minimum of once a week, and how is that going to take place? Are you going to meet online? Are you going to meet in person around coffee somewhere because you're in the same area? Do you agree for your mentee to contact you outside of these pre-agreed meeting hours if they have any questions for you? So that's really defining the roles and the technicalities of how you're going to engage with your mentee. The document will be, there's an agreement template available on the community platform that you'll have access to, and that will help you set up that agreement and the expectations. That will be, pardon me, at this stage, the mentees that we met with last week have been invited to think about their goals and what they want to achieve through this mentoring journey. So they will be able to share that with you as well, and that will form part of that agreement. So, and I think knowing about the goals of your mentee will also help you form your own view of how you're going to be able to help them achieve on these goals and what you're going to be able to think about in the ways you want to support them through that journey. Next slide. So your discussions with your mentees ultimately will be guided by the goals and the objectives that they have and that you have as well. But we've put a lot of tools on the platform to help you as well feed the discussions that you're having weekly with your mentees. So you're going to see once you log into the platform, you'll have access to weekly topics. These topics include resources, so videos, articles that you can read and watch and listen to just really make you think about some aspects that you would like to raise with your mentee, and it's around professional life and the transition into the labor market for the students. So that's really giving you some clues around topics if you're not too sure what you want to talk about with your mentee on the next sessions. So you can see here on the screen that on week 3, for instance, we're talking about vulnerability and what it means to put yourself in a vulnerable position in the context of the workplace or in the context of that mentoring journey that you're on with your mentee. So these are optionals, but they're here to help you throughout the next 10 weeks. Next slide. So what makes a good mentor? That's a big question. And obviously what's on the screen is not exhaustive, but just a few ideas that we've gathered from the previous editions of Pathway to Employment that we just thought it would be good to share with you. So the first thing is, I think we encourage you to be really open about your own journey, sharing stories, sharing experience, anecdotes, pearls of wisdom that you might have that you think could be enlightening for your mentees, or who can really can be really relatable and insightful and help them have their own reflection on their pathway to employment. So that's one thing. Then the other thing is your role, I think, as a mentor is really to be a guide for your mentee. And it's not necessarily giving them ready-made answers. You're not going to have answers to all of their questions necessarily, but it's really guiding their reflection and providing them with tools and tips around how they can find that answers they are looking for. So based on the anecdotes, the stories, your experience that you share with them, or leveraging from their own experience as a student, or maybe some of them have been working on the side as well, or challenges they might be facing. It's really inviting them to speak about this with you and reflect on this experience and take some maybe concrete actions that you're here to guide them through. a lot of students, I think, or I should say, building their network is always, I think, a bit of a challenge for students when they first start on their career. It takes a long time, and it's not always easy to know where to go to build your own network. So I think that's a role that the mentors can take on, and it's not necessarily opening your black book. It's really more around helping students understand how they can start building these connections and leverage them to really make their way through their professional life. Next slide. I think that's pretty much it. Well, if I'm right, yeah, we've walked you through some of the key principles. So I think one thing a little activity we wanted to do with you, just to get to know each other better and really to get you started on your mentoring journey, is to discuss some pearls of wisdom that you might have heard from mentors in your life, or from it can be from your personal life or your professional lives. Just we'll give you a few minutes to think about these pearls of wisdom that you would like to share with us. And just to give you some time, I might ask Will to start and share one that he has.
Yeah, we've run this session a few times, and I normally say the same thing, but I learned something last week that I think I would share. I'm someone who's very optimistic. So whenever someone asks me to do something, I'm like, yeah, I can do that, and I can have it to you by tomorrow. Or I look at the time and I think, yeah, I can do that. And in the past couple of weeks, I've literally with a few projects going on, I realized that whenever my manager asks me to do something and he'd say, can you do it by Wednesday? I would say, I can have it by Tuesday. And he just told me, don't do that. So my pearl of wisdom recently would be I don't know how to phrase this, not under promise and over deliver. That's kind of how I would summarize it. But I think for me, it was realizing that my optimism sometimes doesn't play out, and then I need to plan for when things actually don't go according to how everything I thought would perfectly turn out. So that just helps me. If I've been given a timeline of Wednesday, why would I shorten that and stress myself out? So how do I make sure I'm realistic and taking into account that sometimes things don't go perfectly, and I need to give myself space to be able to work through that. So I'd summarize it as under promise and over deliver. That's how I'd say that. That's my pearl.
Thanks. I think that's a good one to keep in mind, definitely. Maybe learning to say no sometimes too is a good thing to have in mind. Rebecca, did you want to share your pearl of wisdom with us, please?
Yeah, sure. A bit of a context. I'm still in uni, so I guess for me it'll be to be teachable or realize that you don't know everything. Even I think for me, finishing off my course, I'm like, wow, I have done these courses. I think I know some pretty good info, and I'll walk into the workforce and I'll change how things are being done because I've learned these new stuff. But yeah, just walk into the workforce knowing that, hey, these guys have been here for a while. They probably know better than you do. So probably sit back, observe, ask questions, and yeah, be slow to speak.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's something we touch on with the students during the welcome workshop we had with them. It's about being humble and being vulnerable. So being in a place where you don't know everything can be uncomfortable sometimes. So it's accepting that through that mentoring journey or volunteering journey that they are embarking on, you sometimes need to accept that you'll be in an uncomfortable position, but that's where you learn the most probably. So it's one thing we discuss with them. I might share one. So when a few years ago, it was back in France, and one of my managers was a really good people manager, really inspiring. And when I joined the organization I was working with previously, he told me the first year you're learning, the second year you're putting into practice what you've learned, and the third year you're bored. So, and it's not literal, you might not be bored in your role after 3 years, but I think once you've been trained in a particular role and you start being really comfortable in a role, it's probably time to think about what is the next challenge? Can I take on new projects? How can I make my role evolve? It's not necessarily changing company every 3 years or changing role, but it's maybe having discussions with your management team or being put yourself forward to take on more tasks and projects. And I think that's been really useful for me, and it has allowed me to progress through that company that I stayed with for 10 years. So yeah, who is willing to share a pearl of wisdom? You can just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I can go first. Look, I've been in the working industry for last 18 years, but for me, like every year is a learning, but the first year was the most difficult one and most memorable one for me, because I graduated from uni and had good marks as well. So I was full of high expectations that I will do wonders in first month or so. But when I joined, I just looked like stupid because everybody was doing something which I did not understand. And I was in a manufacturing industry, the first one. So then came the learning that forget what you have studied in the uni. Now there's a new thing to study from the industrial perspective, because those two are two different worlds. In the uni, we are taught in a different perspective, but in the professional world, they're not just textbook. There are teams, there are peoples, there are your leaders, and so there's so many dynamics. That took me a while, like almost 6 months to understand before even I started doing my actual work. So that was my learning and inspiration to join today's workshop, to become a mentor, so that I can share my learnings with other uni graduates or who are about to graduate, and they can prepare themselves mentally, emotionally for what they are going to face.
Thanks so much, Rakesh. I think that's a really great example of some of the gaps that exist between the university world and the professional world that we are trying to bridge through this mentoring program. And that's really great to have someone like you as a mentor who went through it not long ago, so it's still really fresh in your mind, and you're really going to be able to care from your experience. So thank you.
It happened long ago, but it's still fresh in my mind.
Anyone else?
I'll go. So I think for me, it probably, I don't know if it was a mentor or maybe when I was in a training course or something, maybe sometime last year, it was around, like imposter syndrome and, women having imposter syndrome. So it's more around just do it, like, because everyone is already, other people are not thinking about you, they're already thinking about themselves. So all the issues that you have, or, whatever you're thinking, don't worry about that, because everyone else is not even taking that much notice, because they're more worried about themselves. So I think for me, it's just, if you're scared to do something, just do it. Like, don't worry, don't have any doubts. Use your doubts as your, like your superpower. I don't know if I said that. I don't know if I said that succinctly or not, being put on the spot, but I think the core message is, you don't worry too much about not having tried it or not having, experienced it, because you're going to get the experience and the exposure if you do just try it. So you just have to be brave and not worry about what other people might think.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a really important, the imposter syndrome is something that all of us experience at some stage, I think, and more so women. I read something recently that when applying for a job, women wait to have about 90% of the skills that are in the job description before they apply to a role, whereas men usually apply when they meet around 60% of the criteria. So I think you're right. We definitely need to go out there and trust ourselves, and don't be afraid of doing something new that we've never done before, because we'll figure it out eventually.
Yes. Great. Well, you said that a lot better than I did. Thank you.
I can go, and I can maybe build a little bit on what you just said, something that resonated with me that someone told me about a few months ago was around the fact that women tend to preface any comments they make in a group meeting by sort of saying, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I might have the wrong end of the stick, but this might be, or this might be a stupid question, but this person sent this out and sort of said, oh, I recognize that I do this all the time. And I thought, oh, I recognize I do that all the time as well. So just having that sort of awareness of, I don't know if it's purely a gender thing, but there definitely is a tendency for women more to apologize before they make a comment. And how do you become aware of that and maybe shift your language appropriately? So.
Yeah, thank you, Jo. And that's really, I don't know, maybe students or the new generation is a bit more aware of this bias than we are. But I think it's great things to discuss with your mentees from both gender around, confidence. And even though you don't know everything and you still need to be humble and open to learn, but it's approaching things with the knowledge that even though you don't know things, you can learn and you can do it. So
I'm happy to go next. I guess maybe just building on, I think what quite a few people have said. I think one of the fantastic opportunities for sort of new graduates is that the offering through universities is so diverse now, and workplaces are really interested in diverse perspectives and in hearing about people's, unique offering, right? So it could be a unique mix of skills, and so I think probably for me, I think, one of the greatest pieces of advice that I got was around just not losing that, that creative mindset around where you can bring your skills, your background, your unique life experience perspective to any situation. And I think sometimes that's, you have to have courage to be able to do that, because you might be bringing something that is quite different to what other people are suggesting. But I think, workplaces are looking for those types of perspectives now. So it does require competence, but it's also recognizing what makes you unique and what perspectives you can bring to the table that other people might not. And when those different perspectives come together, everyone benefits in the long run.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really interesting piece of advice about and a reflection to have with your mentees around how they can leverage their own background to actually present as this unique unique person who has something fresh to bring to an organization, and how they can stand out from the crowd, really, I guess, by offering these different perspectives and innovative ideas. David, did you want to share something with us? I think you're the last to go.
I can. I'm just coming off mute. Sorry, I've been in the car, so apologies I wasn't on camera. But I think we just finished our last tranche of this, and one of the things that we spoke about with my mentee Yesh was around being positive. He was quite not necessarily shy, but unsure of what his experience would be in the environment, and he wasn't your standard kind of uni graduate. He was 26, had traveled and worked overseas before in full-time jobs, and so it was really being able to be belief in yourself, which is covered a couple of times ago, but also maintaining being positive. And for me, being positive is infectious. If you're positive, then people around you are positive. They see that you're positive, and then good things actually happen.
Thanks, David. And yeah, you're right. I think keeping an open mind and a positive attitude, it really does make a difference. And I think it attracts the right kind of people around you, and just helps creating opportunities for you. So because if you're positive and you're seeing the glass half full, you're probably seeing much more things than if you're seeing the glass half empty and you're missing out on opportunity that might be just right in front of you. Right. Thanks so much, everyone. Will, I might leave the last word to you.
Yeah, sure thing. I just wanted to touch on the facts that yeah, David mentioned he's just finished some mentoring. Yeah, we have the joy of Devan and Henia, who had to drop off the call. They were involved with this early in the year. David literally finished up with a mentor maybe 2 weeks ago, and he's right back into it. So David, so good to have you back. And a fair warning for those here and watching online for the first time. This might be a long-term project. You might never leave mentoring with Pathway to Employment. We find that, like I said, it's so unique. There's mentoring is a concept that we all understand and all think is great. So to have the ability to kind of have community here in ABI kind of just link you up with someone and have these amazing conversations and sometimes friendships. Like we see some of our mentors end up like they get to meet in person if they happen to be in similar cities. We had, I think it was David mentioned that they went out for burgers and beers for one of their final mentoring sessions. So you really do get a lot out of it yourself as a mentor. And I think every cohort I'm reminded of the value of what you as mentors can do and also receive from this program. So quick shout out there to our returning mentors. Let me quickly run through that was the meat of the session. We really love hearing your pearls of wisdom and getting you in the zone of sharing and being vulnerable of your experiences. But this program will be delivered through the community platform. As Alex mentioned, we provide 10 weeks of content. So I'm not sure with our current mentors how much they use. We say you can use all of it, but you don't have to. So our students have been asked to think about their goals. What do they want to get out of mentoring? So you should spend your first session talking to them about that and really fleshing that out and talking about how you think you can provide that direction, or and you can use connections as well. Sometimes they really need support on their resume building or interview for recruitment, and you might have a contact at your organization who does recruitment and can speak into that. So it doesn't all have to be on you. You can be sharing resources and that kind of thing. But we provide these pieces of content to help start the conversation each week. Sometimes they're really relevant to what the student needs and what they're looking at. Sometimes there's a week or two that is just outside the scope of what they're thinking about, so you can skip those weeks. But they'll all be on the community platform, and you'll receive emails from me each week directing you back here. So we'll provide a link to bring you straight back there, and I'll be providing some extra context. So we're up to week 4. You should have had your first meeting, and hopefully you've finished typing up your goals or that kind of thing. So that's the kind of support you'll get throughout the program. Our cohort is called Flindersia. If you're familiar with Australian flora, you might know this tree, but I didn't know it before. But each cohort, we move through the alphabet through Australian flora. So this cohort is Flindersia. This is our 6th cohort. You're part of a group of almost 100 mentors now over the past year. It's been quite a popular program, and like I said, you're part of a larger movement in Pathway to Employment. So you receive in the follow-up email that'll come out hopefully this afternoon. I haven't written it up yet, but hopefully this afternoon you'll get the email inviting you to this cohort. So if you haven't used the community platform, you'll have to sign up for the first time. If you have used it before, you'll just be able to click on the link and sign in again, and you'll get landed in your mentor community. So this is what it looks like. If you ever get lost, you can go to your dashboard and you'll be able to find it there as well. Or you can just go back to our email and click on the link. It'll take you straight there. So this is your Flindersia. You have a mentor community, and this is just the mentors. So the students have their own community, as you can see here. They can participate in discussions and look at the content from their ends, whereas you'll have the mentor version of this content. And this is what it'll look like. So it's all in one space, and you'll be able to scroll through the tasks, and each week is there in order. So you'll be able to watch this recording there, and you'll be able to access, we have a pre-programmed survey, and we'll have links to the e-learning, or to the, many of them are TED Talks or articles, and some of them you might have seen before, but they're just so on topic and really bringing them into a conversation about values or about resilience. ABI has put all that content together. So like I said, each week you'll be able to kind of move through those content pieces. You can see all 12 from start to finish right at the start. So you can have a look through and even get a picture of what the flow will look like. And if you notice straight away, oh, week 10 content is actually really relevant, so maybe we could do that a bit earlier. So that's totally up to you. You'll have access to this even after the program. So if you're ever doing some future mentoring, feel free to lean on this content and what you've learned from here. If you have any questions or anything's not working or a link's not working, anything like that, just reply to any of my emails and let me know. We're happy to help you work through that. Okay, we'll do questions in a moment. So just a reminder that they're doing volunteering as well. So through your mentoring sessions, feel free to ask them what they're doing for volunteering, because they're all doing slightly different things. They've all taken different projects, and how they're going. Some of them will be doing event-based things, so it should be pretty straightforward. Some of them are doing more like projects, like research tasks or something like that. I want to be clear that we don't expect you to jump in and do some research or help them with the volunteering. We want you to provide support for them. So if they're like, how do I know what to do next? Or how do I work with someone? If you can use these as live examples for mentoring, but the expectation is not that you jump in and help them complete the task. I mean, if you're really interested, you totally could, but that's not part of the expectation in this program. Don't feel pressured to take on any extra work. We know that you're all quite busy and working full time and taking this on as a volunteering opportunity. So your task is not to get involved in those, but you can use that as content for your mentoring sessions. Okay, I'll have a pause. Are there any questions about the program? I'll go into next steps and that kind of thing next, but any questions so far?
Nothing from you, Will. Thank you for taking us through this far.
Thanks, Rakesh.
I have a question maybe for some of the mentors online. It may only be just David who've done it before, but I'm just curious how organically it kind of flows when you meet your mentee, you know, whether it's quite easy to sort of establish that understanding of what their goals are and then jointly define kind of where you want to head in the program, or is it you have to sort of be a bit more directive? I'm just curious what your experiences and learnings were from your last mentoring.
It was reasonably organic. I'm trying to do a lot of this at the moment. So I've actually been working with some year 9 and 10s as well, and I find it just comes down to, you know, having that conversation and understanding that, you know, whether it be about going for a role or developing your resume, it should still be about a conversation, and that if you are getting feedback through through what the other person's saying, they're reacting to your story, and, you know, getting used to being able to tell your life story and saying this is what I can bring, then it does become just a conversation. So Yesh and I did catch up. You know, we had a beer and some lunch, but most of it was just a chat over the phone. You know, the emails that we got each week from Willem was terrific, and gave us some guidance. But through that initial conversation, we're covering a lot of the topics as well. So it was great to have those reminders to say, okay, well, this is what we're talking about this week, but, you know, we've obviously been through a bit of that. So it was about having a conversation, and that was, you know, very easy with Yesh. But I think it's also about, you know, giving as well. So it was you know, being able to explain, you know, why I'm here, what I'm doing, and I guess, you know, for want of a better term, telling my life story to start that conversation, because there'll always be things of interest. There'll always be points within an interview or within a conversation with a mentor that gives you something to talk about later, you know, later either in the process or in the interview.
David, really appreciate you sharing that.
Thanks, David. And Devan, did you want to add anything from your experience?
Yeah, so I mean, the content that you provided, Will, was really helpful, because it, you know, sometimes the students they're kind of, you need to help them kind of hone into what their goals are and what they want you to, help them with, over the 10-week period. And it's a short time. So you can't do everything. So the content that you provided really drove the conversations. And then you obviously expand on that, like by sharing your experience, as David said, and you and like for that week, they might have something that they're going through at the moment. They might be project-based at uni and they want to know how they can kind of become the leader of that project, and you just talk through that. So I found that my mentee and I went through the content and we discussed the content, and I shared my experience in terms of the content. And then we talked about what challenges she was facing for that particular week. And, sometimes it'll be like a half an hour conversation, and some weeks it might be like an hour conversation. So it's really, you really kind of, I would allocate an hour just to, have the time. So it's really, fluid, I guess. But yeah, the content really helped drive the discussion and hone in on the development areas for the mentee.
Thanks, Devon. And maybe I'll just add with our design of the program, particularly with the first week, don't feel pressure to succeed or to tick off a checklist. Really give yourself some space just to get to know the student, what they want to get out of it. Similarly, because of the nature of this program, it's often the students that are quite driven or are looking for something extra or have a bit more direction and motivation. They're the ones that are taking up this program. So it's not always the case. So often that first conversation will really be understanding them, their drives, their motivation, their experience, and giving them a bit of a picture about who you are and what they can expect in those mentoring sessions. But don't kind of feel the pressure to have to tick off anything in that first session. Give yourself that space. And then the weekly content from then can help really frame those conversations, particularly if the student might not be as motivated or not have a clear direction. You can actually use the content to provide those stepping stones because, it's not always the case for the student to be really clear on what they want. So you can really use that to hone it in.
And maybe just to add to that, you're also welcome to actually invite the students to work on little things or reflect on some question that you provide them with before your next session the following week. So just to help drive the discussions and give them some time to actually prepare for the next session. That also helps to have them more engaged if they've been preparing and doing some work and reflecting on some of the things that you've raised with them.
Yes, some mentors set homework. That's not an expectation. Some mentors it comes out like, if you want to work on your resume, I'm not going to write it for you. So before next week, tidy it up or send it through or that kind of thing. So feel free to set homework but there's no expectation to. Okay, so let's chat next steps. So you'll receive a follow-up email today with a link to that community. So like I said, you'll either create your accounts or just sign in again if you already have one. Again, I know that you might have expressed interest without fully understanding what the program is. So if you're kind of realizing, oh, this actually isn't what I expected, that's totally fine. Just let us know. But otherwise, we'll assume you're able to go ahead. And we're working to match you with mentees over the coming week. And basically, so you get an email today directing you to the community. You can access all the content. And then next week, you receive an email to say, Alex and Rebecca here. Hi, Alex and Rebecca. You've been matched. Feel free to start those conversations and set up your first meeting. You don't have to include us in all of the emails. We'll just check in to make sure that you've had that first meeting and are getting set up as well. So with the matching, we're quite clear to our students that we're not trying to provide industry experience or a pathway to an internship. That's not what they're expecting to get out of you. So we're not trying to match someone in your industry or with the same kind of goal for that role description that you've provided. That's not our goal. What we want is these, you would have noticed, like resilience, career progression, those kind of things that can be translated across any career or industry. So you'll be matched based on that and based on kind of their skills or what they're interested in, as opposed to a career path. If anything comes up in the first couple of weeks, you're not sure about your match, please do let us know. we have had a lot of positive matches and connections come through the way that we match you up at the moment. So please do let us know if that match hasn't worked out for you, or if you're unsure, and we can help address that either with the students or with a rematch. So that's what to expect. We actually are looking for some more mentors. So we weren't able to get all enough mentors to fulfill our whole cohort. So if you know anyone, we'd love for you to pass on my email. Would probably be the easiest way. We're still looking for 5 mentors. So if you know anyone that would be interested or suitable for this, please do get them in touch with me. You don't have to have any mentor experience. I don't know if we've mentioned this explicitly today, but we try to provide the structure so that if this is your first time, you have some clear steps and clear support to get through and have your first experience. Or if you're a super veteran mentor, then you can use this content to just build your practice and support what you do. So if you know anyone that will be suitable, please do get them in touch with me. We'll keep recruiting over the next week or so. So please do let us know. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining today. That's all we wanted to share. We're really excited to have you as part of this cohort. We know the impact that you have on our students. So we would love to provide that support and make sure we're there for you as well. So please do just reply to any of the emails with any concerns. We'll have some check-ins throughout the program, and you can, it'll be like a quick Google form for you to pop in any feedback that you have. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining today. I know it's an hour out of your schedules in the middle of a workday. So thank you for your time. We look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Will, Alex, and Rebecca, and everybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great
See
day.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.